Everybody, this is Steve Gipson.
And I'm Sam Pro. And welcome to our episode of Distinctly Digital, a modern recruiting podcast. Today, we are going to talk about SEO.
Okay, so Sam.
Yes.
What does SEO stand for?
Ooh, great question. SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization.
That's right. You did it.
I Googled it.
So, this is a topic that we get asked a lot about, and it's important because it is how you are found through the internet and through Google searches, Bing, Yahoo, all the different places where people can find your organization. And so many people don't understand what it is, what it stands for.
Yeah, it's like this big mystery in the digital landscape where you hear the words or the phrase SEO and you think, oh my gosh, that has got to be hard because it's an acronym. I think acronyms scare people.
They're terrifying. They really are.
But essentially, it is how you show up in search results. It's literally that. It is finding the best ways to improve your chances of showing up in Google searches, in Yahoo searches, etc.
Right. And there's a large percentage of searches, I think about 53% or so, or 53% of all traffic on your website comes from those types of searches. And so we want to be able to find, or it should theoretically come from that. And so we want to find a way to make sure that you're being found, you're being visible. And so some of the things we're going to talk about today are really more of those high level point of view of what it is, overview of the fundamentals, just to get a better understanding of what it is we're talking about. So that way, when you're investigating it, when you're doing research on your own, it doesn't seem so foreign or so scary.
Okay, so what would you say is the first thing we need to know about SEO in simple terms? What can we do to optimize our search engine results?
Okay, so number one was just getting that, what it means, search engine optimization. And I feel pretty good about that, really. We could probably end this episode now. And we've educated you on more than most people here throughout their entire life about what SEO is.
It's been a great 2 minutes.
It's been wonderful. I think our audience would be thrilled if we
would be
ended it now, but we're not going to. So, but the good news is you have a pause, you have a stop button on your side. So if you're done, if it's too much information for you to handle this moment, then that's okay.
Absolutely.
But if not, if you're in it for the long run, basically what we're, again, like Sam said, we're about proving the site's rankings and organic and non-paid section of the search results. So within the world of SEO, you have two really, or even the world of marketing, you have two really kind of facets. You have paid marketing and advertising through the digital ecosystems that are available to us, and then you have non-paid.
Or organic.
Or organic is the term within that. And so when we talk about search engine optimization, we're talking about those organic efforts that you can put in place to be more visible. And so this is about creating high quality content. It's about optimizing the content on your website around specific keywords and key phrases, implementing backlinks, internal links throughout the site, finding all kinds of opportunities to just increase the depth of the site through those types of keywords, and a strategy that's in place to be able to make sure that you come up for what your potential clients and candidates are searching for.
And the key that you said there is this is the organic. This is the quote unquote free way of doing it. If you have a website, you can do this. It is not something that requires extensive tools or programs. It requires research, I will tell you that. But every website has the options in the back end to add SEO.
Yeah, and you know it can be more complicated for different if you're using different content management systems. You know, WordPress has a lot more accessibility. If your website is built in different platforms other than WordPress, you know, it can be more complicated to do. More technical experience may be required, but the overall concepts of everything we're discussing, I think that people want to make it sound so complicated and technical in a lot of ways, and I don't want to. And there is some aspect of that, but when we're talking about some of these dynamics here, there are some things that we can think about just from how we use the internet ourselves, how we do Google searches ourselves, and apply that to how we need to implement that on our website. And so, and I will stress this as well. You know, I will always say it's not necessarily an event. When you talk about search engine optimization, it is a process.
Absolutely.
But that being said, those things there are some things that can be done in that moment to when you are looking at your website that can be established in some of those foundation and fundamentals that can be there that can start working for your firm from then on, and then being able to see and know how that site's working, how that's responding with the search engine based on those terms that are implemented. Tracking those things will allow you to understand how to be more aggressive and how to continue to implement a more in-depth SEO strategy.
So let's dig into how does a Google search work? I need to find a digital marketing recruiter. What am I going to Google?
Digital marketing recruiter.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
That's probably the best thing to search. Some people add near me or Philadelphia, or they put, you know, more terms in there to maybe narrow in on what they're looking for. And Google's algorithm has, at least it's tons of different things. It's because it's constantly changing.
Right.
It's got a bunch of different things that it takes into consideration for its rankings on what shows up first page, third page, not at all.
Right. The main things are going to be, and these factors, you know, there's a lot of unknowns because it is Google's game that we're essentially trying to play. Mm-hmm. You know, they kind of make the rules for this, but things like relevancy, based around how closely related that page that's coming up is related to that keyword that someone or key phrase that someone is searching, the authority or trustworthiness of that, usefulness as it applies to that keyword or key phrase as well. And then things like domain age, loading speed, the meta title, meta descriptions, how images are optimized, if there's an SSL certificate, all kinds of things play a role in how your website's going to rank when we're talking about algorithms and how Google tries to measure those things. But ultimately, what they're trying to do is they're trying to sell ads. So they're trying to bring the most credible and relevant results possible. So that way, when they are talking to a potential company that wants to advertise on that platform, they say, hey, we are a really great search engine because we bring back the most accurate results. So that's why more people use us. So if you advertise through us, you're getting more people because more people are using us for those reasons.
Yeah.
And so we just want to help them understand what your firm's website is about.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about the types of SEO that's there.
So there's two main ones that we can look at: on page SEO and then off page SEO. Of course, if one is on, one would be off.
Right. Yeah.
So on page SEO, this is really looking at your individual web pages in order to rank higher and earn more of that relevant traffic in search engines. This can be the content you have on the page, the actual content that you have written, or your source code of a page that can be optimized.
Yeah, and you know, when you start talking about source code and you start talking about these things that people you know don't know much about, just because if you're not in the technical world, these terms, the jargony terms, sound scary. But essentially, what we want to do is just make sure that website structure, the background of it, the way that it's set up, is optimized as best as possible to follow those factors that we just talked about. Some of those things that impact the ranking. doing to make sure that it is following those as guidelines as much as possible to show up in the results. So when you look at elements, so when we talk on page, we're talking about things like your H tags,
Yes.
your heading tags, essentially, your descriptions, meta description, your meta title. So that would be called your metadata on that website and on that page, and how that is implemented properly and around a specific keyword or key phrase. And, it's changed 10 years ago. Even probably less than that, probably before 2014, you could get away with even stuffing a lot of keywords into your page. So if you wanted to rank as a insurance recruiter, you would find as many possible ways to type that phrase insurance recruiter in there as much as possible.
And now you get heavily penalized for stuffing keywords.
Right. You got to be very specific. They want this to be as useful information as possible. And so if it's just demonstrating the same word over and over, or same phrase over and over, they deem that as not useful. They can kind of pick up on, at least theoretically, they pick up on what is unintelligent type of content. And so when we're implementing these things on our website, we want to make sure that we have the right amount of structure and density to the content containing the keyword, the right amount of times in the right places, all the way through making sure it's mobile responsive and that it loads quickly. And all these things are implemented on our website. And so the most effective way to do this is to really sit down and start thinking about, who is my audience? Who are my clients? Who are my candidates? What industries do I serve? And what are they going to be typing in to find me?
Yeah, essentially, you are not Googling your own company. I mean, you might, but it's people out in the world that are Googling your company. And when you are Googling other companies to find things on your own, how are you phrasing it? What words are you using? Are you finding the right kind of stuff? This is all SEO related.
Right. And, when we all hear about a product or service, the first thing that we all do, at least 75% of us do, is we go to the web and we start doing research. Mm-hmm. And there's always been this common misconception. So when I've had conversations with firms and recruiting agencies and staffing firms about search engine optimization and why it's important, a lot of them will tell me, well, Steve, I put my name in the other day of my firm and we came up number one.
Well, of course, that's the name of your firm.
Right. That's not what we're talking about, because you probably are. I mean, I've seen some people not, but you're probably going to come up, if you type in the name of your organization there into Google, your firm's going to come up. But we want to know what people are going to be typing in to find a firm like yours. And they're going to be a little bit more descriptive about what that is versus just the name of your organization, because probably don't know the name of your organization yet. And so that's what we want to be able to do. And that's what we're talking about here, and kind of these initial stages and the fundamentals of SEO before you even get to implementing some of those foundations throughout the website that you're dealing with. So, this is all part of that research you're diving into. And it can be, the things that you just experience on every day, what you would type in, that's the best place to start. But next, what we want to do is we actually want to kind of get into some real data on this. So keyword planning and using tools like Google's Keyword Planner.
It's an incredible tool. There are a lot of others out there. You can do a quick Google search to find them. They have really good SEO.
Sam, what would you type in for that?
Probably SEO planning tools.
Ah, that's a good one.
But these tools will help you figure out, are the words you think people are searching for internal jargon that you use versus what the public uses? Is it something that is being searched on a monthly basis? I know I dig into the Google keyword tool pretty frequently, just as an additional tool in my tool belt. And it will show, how many searches a month on average that particular potential keyword is getting. If you're seeing that it's 10 searches in a month, might not be a great keyword to choose.
And I'm going to interrupt a little bit on this, because I agree with Sam. I'm not fighting you, as she looks at me with this death stare. As a lot of what we're talking about, as you can tell, we are not very well planned in this, but it's not something that is she's not wrong by any means. But there's a little bit different philosophy within us being recruiters in the recruiting industry in some ways, because we don't need the whole world to find us.
Good point.
So if someone would go to Google Keyword Planner and they would type in recruiters in the insurance industry, or recruiters in the photonics industry, or photonics recruiting firm, they're not going to see a ton of results for something very specifically niche like that. Now, if you type in, like in the planner, light industrial staffing agency, you're going to see a little bit more results, and you'll know whether or not and what variation of that makes the most sense. But sometimes, just because it's not overly searched, and that doesn't mean your audience is not searching it.
That is true. And I'm thinking more of a general broad strokes approach, whereas this would be, you're right, an individual industry look.
Right. And so when we are looking at that, the terms, as you think about different terms, think about the phrase is a long-tailed keyword. These are things that describe a little, and in a phrase that's a little bit more descriptive about your organization and your firm. So again, rather than trying to rank for recruiters or executive search or a staffing firm, which is very, very competitive, a lot of people are throwing a lot of money at all the time. I would love it if you ranked for that.
That would be a dream.
It would be great. But it's very, very difficult to be able to rank for that, because you have to be very active. You're competing with, the Adecos and the Ronstads and the Korn Ferries and all the different firms that are out there that have in-house marketing teams that are doing this and spending millions of dollars on this. And frankly, we don't need everyone, again, to find you. If you are specializing in we had a client we worked with that specialized within elevator repair industry. He doesn't need people that are looking for accounting and finance recruiters to find him. He doesn't need individuals that are looking for manufacturing to be able to find him. He's more specific and more focused on that. If only 10 people a month are doing that search, that's great if those 10 people a month find him. And so those are kind of things to think about from the perspective of your industry, what's important to you, and what keywords are going to be typing in, and then what's coming up in those different planners and resources you're investigating with.
You also need to, building upon that, thinking about who you're looking for, who are your ideal candidates and clients, you need to think about internally. What are your SMART goals for this SEO project?
Wait, is that an acronym?
Believe it or not, it's another scary acronym for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Any goal that you make in your professional life, in your personal life, any goal that you make should be a SMART goal. Because with these 5 things, you can see if it's actually producing the results that you wanted.
Right. If it's not something that's specific enough to measure, and it's not something that's achievable, and it's not relevant to what you're doing in the right time frame, then what is it?
Then why do it?
Right. So it's important just to kind of think about that from that perspective and how to approach that. So that's kind of the basis of getting ready and getting started to implement some of these SEO tactics. And let's go into just a few things that every company, and especially recruiting firm and staffing firm, should do to kind of help just to this is the most basic sense. And we'll get into this more next week. We're getting more of these fundamentals, talk about meta description, metadata, the criteria around that, all the information that exists within that. But let's just talk about setting up social media pages, getting those implemented.
This is something I do every day for new clients. And it's something that we as recruiters' websites are constantly looking at our pages and making sure things are still relevant. So first thing, claim your business page. If you're like, well, no one is using Facebook to find me. You don't know that. Maybe there's one person out there who wants to find you. Just have a page. Claim it. Make sure it is a true business page, not a personal page that just happens to have your name and your business name. That's not effective. Make sure that you're doing this on all of the channels. That when I say that, I mean Facebook, LinkedIn, maybe Twitter, maybe Instagram, depending on your industry.
What, TikTok?
Possibly TikTok. You don't know. I am a TikTok lover, and I see recruiters on there and staffing agencies. I learned more about, Steve's going to hate this. I learned more about recruiting through TikTok than I have on my own outside research about recruiting. Now, that being said, I did have to read some books when I got hired to learn about recruiting.
Right.
Those were very good.
They are.
They're very good.
I don't know if it's not the content. I think it's maybe just in the amount of ability to be able to retain such in-depth, insightful information that has been contained and written in leather-bound books for the ages. I bet it's in the library. I'm sure they're in the Library of Congress. I know we could go there. We could look it up, find it, sit down, enjoy a nice cup of coffee, and read that book forever, throughout time.
However, I gather a lot of information through 2-minute videos on TikTok with trending sounds and cats and dogs that may have bones or no bones.
It's a different time.
It's
a different time.
So set up on your channels. Then make sure that content that you're putting on there, whether it be every day, whether it be once a month or just one time, make sure that it is complete and accurate. That's your about page. That's like having your logo, your cover image, things of that nature.
And the reason this is, and this relates to SEO, is because this is one of those other factors that we talked about, one of those 200 plus factors that Google looks at. This actually does play into how it rates the credibility of your website. Those pages exist. It shows this is more than just a standalone fly-by-night website, but it's actually a credible resource. And then the other aspect to kind of take a look at and think about is do you have a Google business page set up?
Google My Business page is basically an online white page or yellow page. They're yellow pages.
Yellow, yeah.
Sorry, I'm a little young. So where it has your Google account number, your physical address, your phone number, images of your business that you have put on there, or people who have been to your location have posted on Google.
Right. And you can send clients and candidates there to give you reviews. Mm-hmm. And again, this is about playing Google's game. I know that you said, Steve, this is stupid. Why do I want to do this? Why does it matter? Well, it matters in the sense that we're giving more of our information and our content to Google and telling them what our company is about so they can index it a little bit more efficiently and effectively. And they like that. They like us doing what they ask us to do.
Exactly. If we want to show up in Google's search results, we got to play Google's game.
Right. And it creates a nice listing on the side. So when that comes up, you can even show up there and it shows a nice visual of who your organization is. If you have nice, good reviews, it shows those reviews. And managing reviews is a whole nother conversation within that, but it just creates that opportunity for you to be found and plays into more of what they're looking for us to do. So,
and it has your phone number and website right there underneath your name. They don't have to further look for how to contact you. They click it on their phone, it dials it immediately, or, on a web page, you type it in. It's right there. They don't have to keep looking for, okay, so I found the people. Where do I get to know them? Right here.
Right. And again, this is something most firms are not doing. And most of the stuff we're talking about, most agencies and recruiting firms and staffing firms are thinking the same thing that you're thinking. Steve, I don't have time for this. But that's good for you if you do make time, because then all of a sudden you're doing more than the average. You're doing more than the rest of the world is doing when we're talking about recruiters and staffing firms. And it allows you to be able to set yourself apart by doing very little. And that's really what we're trying to accomplish here, is just rising above the rest. If you're, it's just important. I'm not even going to use the analogy I was going to use. So it's very important. So that's why we're going through this. That's why we're going to dive into these things a little bit deeper next week as well.
Yeah, this will be a multi-parter. This is SEO basics. We're going to talk about paid options. In the next episode, we're going to talk about organic versus paid, more fundamentals on how you can optimize that metadata we briefly mentioned earlier. all sorts of stuff in one, maybe two more episodes.
Sure. And we're going to have our content writer, Cole Windler, on one of the next upcoming podcasts as well. Talk about some content strategies, ins and outs, ways to think about approaching information you're writing, whether it's blogs, website content, things like that as well. So we'll look forward to speaking with everybody again next week.
Absolutely. In between then and now, if you want to learn more about us or more about the services we offer, you can check us out on all the socials, as well as our website, recruiterswebsites.com. We also send out a weekly newsletter if you're interested in getting a little more in-depth, original content from our team.
That's great.
All right. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Sam.